Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Facebook Live. It is, can you believe it, the third month of this year, 2023, March 1st, 2023. I heard that March was going to be like a radical change for spiritual growth or something of that sort. So wishing everyone that everyone experiences a lot of transformation during this month. Let me get started with our panel. We have April here. April is a psychic and has quite a few modalities of healing, like hypnotherapy and different modalities. Thank you, April, for being here. She's been with us for a few years. Then we have Ken here, who is part of our core group of meditators. Good evening, Ken. And then Rob has started joining us. He is a book author. Good evening, Rob. And then we have Patricia as well. Good evening, Patricia. She's part of our core group of meditators as well. I just posted the question that this person asked. Before I go into the question, thank you, April, for helping Patricia over the weekend. I know Patricia was like, this is commendable, right? Like a group rises to support each other. So grateful, eternally grateful to you for spending 2 hours with her. I know she was troubled. She talked a lot with us on Friday itself. Michelle and I tried to help her, and then I kept asking her over the weekend. So then Patricia let me know, oh, April talked to me for 2 hours, and that was like so amazing. So let's see, maybe Patricia here, we get some help as well. This person asks, can someone tell me how to surrender? I have chronic pain and I'm in a bad cycle between pain and anxiety. Eckhart says to surrender to the obstacle in your life and accept, I think this is accepted as an ACCEPT, accepted, and the anxiety will leave. I've said to myself over and over that I surrender to the pain, but I must not be doing it right. Between the pain and the anxiety, I'm in chronic fear from the minute I wake up until I go to bed. Any advice on this would be so appreciated. So April, if you wanted to get started, then I'll tag everyone on the Facebook group. Thank you.
Okay. In this, the first thing I think I would address would be the anxiety. I think that would be the first thing that I would address. Because the physical pain, a lot of it could be, and we don't know the background, but it could be manifesting from the anxiety. We all are well aware in this group and that our emotions affect our physical health and our physical body. All the chemicals that are released from anxiety and fear, all the cortisol that's released within the body could very well be causing a lot of this pain. So I would start with the anxiety first. Of course, we would look into maybe alternative methods for the pain, any number of them, from massage to meditation to acupuncture to, whatever. But the anxiety, that's going to keep you trapped and it's going to perpetuate the pain. From the minute I wake up until the time I go to bed. So this tells me that I'm in chronic fear. So what is the fear about? So I don't know if this person is listening, but what is the fear about? And that tells me that your mind is controlling you. You do not have control over your mind. And we very much can learn to train. Eckhart, it's very, one of my favorite things to do with Eckhart is to take, some people have made some, through the Creative Commons, they have taken some of his funniest moments and they've linked them all together. I just love that. But he likens this to training a dog. If you allow the dog to just run and be crazy, then it's going to do whatever it wants. And he likens, training the brain to that. And I agree. The brain very well can be controlled. You don't have to be a prisoner of your mind. So anxiety is always about fear, and it's always about control. It's always about not having control over yourself, a person, a place, a thing, a situation. And it is always projected into the future. So you are not in the present moment if you're in fear. You can't be in the present moment and be in fear. Because at this very second, you're okay. And then each second, each moment, you're actually okay. So what I would start with is controlling the thinking, noticing the thoughts, noticing the kind of thought, stopping the thoughts. And you can either stop the thought or you can replace it. You don't have to replace it. However, the most important part is to stop the thought. Oh, I'm thinking about my car's going to break. Okay, nope. You know what? I'm here. I'm right now. I'm okay. Oh, I'm thinking that I'm not going to have any money. Oh, no. You know what? I'm here. I'm right now. I'm okay. So I would really work on that and learning to control those thoughts and those thinkings and bringing yourself back to the present moment. I truly would start here. I'm re-looking at the question. Surrender to the obstacle in your life and accept it, and the anxiety will leave. That is very true. When you learn that it is what it is, and again, that doesn't mean that we like it, but it is what it is, then it's not a matter of fear. It's a matter of what can I do in this moment? And sometimes we can't do anything. But usually it is more of looking and saying, okay, what can I do? Or what's the most important thing to do in this moment? What's the most important step for me to do? So I had a person that was moving rooms once, one bedroom across the hall to the other bedroom, had both rooms tore up and was in complete disarray over the mess, didn't know what to do, could not handle it. And I asked them, well, what's the most important thing in the bedroom? And they couldn't figure it out because in their mind, they seen everything. And I said, but what's the most important thing in the bedroom? What would you need most? And I said, the bed. Because if you get tired, you can go lay down. You can go start tomorrow. Just start with what's the next thing I can do at this moment, instead of also looking at the totality of the picture. So if in this illness, if you're looking at, oh, I have all this pain and I must have some disease and I have to go to the doctors, you're looking at this totality into the future, you're going to have anxiety. This is where I would start, coming back to the present moment and controlling the thought.
One of the things that I found great pointers, April, always grateful. You do an incredible job. One of the things I found strange was not so much as strange, but when somebody says, I have said to myself over and over that I surrender to the pain, but I must not be doing it right. You cannot say surrender, right? Surrender is an aspect of presence growing in us, and that presence allowing the surrender to happen. Surrender does not happen with the mind.
Right. And yep, the way that you have put it, that's exactly true. So just saying, I surrender, correct. That's not the energy. You need the energy. You need the presence, the being inside that is, okay, I surrender.
Right.
I give it away.
Right.
I quit holding it. Right.
And the presence may not be arising because of the anxiety. So this person probably first needs to look at how they are constantly projecting themselves, like you said, in the future moment, getting anxious about it. And then another thought arises, projecting themselves in the future, anxiety arises, projecting themselves in the future, anxiety arises. and their whole day is gone by where anxiety arises. The other um, uh, aspect to it, what I feel, April, is they can look at who in their family, where did they pick up that conditioned pattern of being anxious about as well, right? Was my mom always anxious, or was my dad always anxious, or was my grandmother always anxious around me?
Yeah.
So I've now picked up this habit of I involuntary, like it's an almost an what Dr. Joe Dispenza called programming, right? It's your
Yeah.
default program that you're anxious. You don't
Well,
even know why you're anxious, but you're anxious.
exactly. Yeah. And so as you guys know, I've been doing mental health and substance abuse counseling for 16 years now. And I can tell you that what I have found is that anxiety is normally, of course, there's nothing that's 100%, a learned behavior. Now, there are some people who are just wired that way, like they're just wired that way. So it is a biological thing. But I would say 90% of people, maybe even more, it's a learned behavior. They have learned it from somewhere. And when I start talking to people and I start asking them questions and I start digging a little deeper, I usually get this moment of them looking at me in silence going, And I'm like, somebody was anxious. Somebody taught you to worry to this extreme. And we're taught in the society, right? We talked about this, how in the society we're taught to, look behind your back and carry your keys with your key out and have your mace and lock your doors and right. And when I was a kid, we were hiding under desks because of Cold War and all of that. So yeah,
Lock your cars. Don't go
yeah,
late at night. You're a woman. Don't go late at night. Don't come back home
yeah,
at 2 a.m. Be
all of
careful.
these fears. Yeah. And I would love to have more detail on this because it's totally fixable, totally fixable.
And to stop the thought would be like one conscious breath. That's what Eckhart says. Take one deep breath, and that'll break your thought. See if you can break your thought pattern, right? When you go into this cycle of anxiety, this anxious thought to that anxious thought, take one conscious breath and try and create a gap in your thought. That would be the initial technique.
Well, and like Patricia this weekend asked, she kind of asked this too. So I had to think about this, like, how do you do this? And how did you get to do this? How did you learn to do it? So one of the things that you can do, again, everything is in the imagination. That's really the key of the world of everything. But you can imagine yourself being peaceful. And then once you really imagine that, you can grab a hold of that sensation, that energy. So I imagine myself as a peaceful person, and then that'll give you a taste of what it feels like. And then you can start practicing it. The peaceful person breathes, and they breathe deeply and they breathe slowly, and the energy calms down. So you can imagine yourself being calm as well. That's one of the things that I did, is I imagined, how did I want to be? Because I really didn't know how to be outside of angry. So I would imagine, how would I be in the state that I was, after. And then from there, I could get a sense of that energy. And then I incorporated that into me. Does that make sense?
Beautiful. Yes. Thank you. And if you ask me, how did I start? My first glimpse of presence, and I used to be one that was in that thought activity, one thought after the other, because of being a single mom plus working in corporate America. My way was, I would look when I would stream, like I would connect my iPad with a cable to the TV. So I could look at Eckhart like on a 50-inch screen TV, right? And then I would look at his eyes when he was talking. And this was like talks from 2012. So Eckhart really held a lot of presence then. So you could look at his eyes and you would get arrested. Like he would hold you in his presence. And that was my first glimpse of, okay, this is what it feels like. And he himself says, right, you can be listening to a talk. If you missed one word, that means you lost presence. So I would listen so intently that I did not miss even a single word of what he said. And that's when you learn, okay, this is what presence feels like. So another pointer, this is what you can do if you want to experience presence. What does it feel like? If you don't know the taste of it, I feel our group already knows the taste of what presence feels like. So with that, I'll go to Ken. Ken, did you want to say something about this? Thank you.
Oh, yes. This is, yes, how to surrender. And thank you, April and Poonam. You've said so many beautiful pointers that is right on cue. And I think the one word is, how can someone surrender is, I want to say, change your programming. And just like April had said, there's definitely a way to cure this, or definitely a way of changing where you're at into a much better state of being. I started to go with other people because I needed to connect with other people that were going through similar things that I was going through. So just as the person saying about chronic fear, just as April said, just what is it? And what was your family? And this was a learned behavior, without a doubt. I grew up with an alcoholic father. And so my father, I could never know when he was going to explode. So I was continuously, as a small child, walking on eggshells. So I learned a language of fear. I learned a language of not knowing what's going to happen, anxiety. And as soon as I knew my father was coming home, I would go into a fear, much, much more fear. So it's something where anxiety, my safe place was the woods. That's when I felt the best. So if my father came home and he was really acting up, I would try to get out and go in the woods because it would calm me down. And then later on in life, I took things to calm me down. One was alcohol, one was work. So I had to go through a process for me to find out, what am I doing? And stop paying attention to my habits and when these cycles or when these feelings would really come up. And it's usually something is getting triggered. So it's like putting a puzzle together or putting the dots together, and then talking to different people. So in how I first learned was my pain had to be so bad that something had to give. I got to the point actually that I didn't want to live anymore. So mine was really extreme, but I had an incredible awakening in 1988 that I entered the spirit world. Okay, and I'm going to skip a lot of that, but that's what it took for me. Then after that, I started to understand more and more, and I had to work through different layers of my own anxiety, or things would come up and I wanted to understand more. And then I learned about energy, and then coming into this group 15 months ago, that's when I really learned about presence. And I realized I have been in presence at different times of my life, but never knew it. I didn't know how to name it. And now being in presence, it's amazing. I can go into it and feel something, and I can come out of it fairly fast because I have many tools in my toolbox. I can either go to a meeting, talk with other like-minded people, pray, meditate. I make sure I eat well. I make sure I sleep well. So my well-being, and I'm learning to love myself. And years ago, I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know. I thought I was loving myself, and I wasn't. But now it's understanding I need to take care of my being. And when I do, there's a different communication. Even my body now, I realize there's a communication when I don't feel well. I listen to it and it's trying to tell me something. So it's something, even being on this group, and I really, really hope that you're watching. This will be huge. And I'd be really, really curious after tonight. I would love to know how you feel if you are watching this. So it's something where I've learned when I am on the beam or doing the right thing, instantaneously, there's something that shifts inside of me. And just the idea of being with like-minded people, it's a different energy that runs through all of us. And it's a healing energy. If we're unconscious and we're in that pain, we're in all that, those feelings, the anxiety, it controls us. And we just continue day in and day out to do the same thing, not realizing what's going on. So that's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ken. I love that pointer that you said. So it could be not so much as the condition pattern from another person that we pick it up, but because we are fearful of somebody in our family, like you said, right? Just like you, I was terrorized by my mom. Like I would shake the moment she would come home, exactly the same thing. Like I was on eggshells. When is she going to explode? When is this going to become like, it's like a gunpowder waiting to explode? And then you don't know what's going to happen. It's going to turn into like one huge anger, violent temper kind of evening, right?
Yes, and thank you. And so that would be part of the programming that started in my life.
So
me,
this person could have the same kind of similar
Exactly.
kind of fear from
And not
somebody in their
understand it.
family and not knowing it. So they
Exactly.
can examine that as well.
And
So
if that
beautiful.
person could really feel they're not that person, they weren't born that way. They're not
Yes.
a bad person. It was the programming that has to change. And when it does, it will eliminate the anxiety and eliminate other things. It took me years. I thought I was just made that way until I realized, no, I'm not made that way. And that isn't who I am. That's when I started to really change.
Beautiful.
So thank you.
And she does say that the pain is associated with the anxiety, which is true because what Dr. Joe Dispenza says and what medical medium says, and I know even Eckhart talks about the pain body, it's like when we are in that fight, flight, freeze mode, when we are in that survival genes, we are trying to survive, we release so much adrenaline in our body. A body can take like a little bit of adrenaline. It's like, you know, when the deer is in the forest and the lion is coming, then the deer runs away from the lion. This adrenaline builds up, right, to run away from the lion. And then the moment the threat is gone, the deer is like by the watering hole, drinking, it's done, right? But the human being is not that way. They'll think one more thought. They'll think another thought, right? The adrenaline is constant. So we are giving out so much excessive adrenaline that it turns toxic in the body. And that's why medical medium actually does the physical, works towards the physical aspect of it, right? We do the cleansing. We cleanse using the celery juice, the very clean this thing. So there's a physical cleanse to it. Dr. Joe uses meditation to do the cleansing part. So it's both ways to cleanse the pain body, but and I think that toxic adrenaline in the body is what is causing the pain. And that's what Eckhart calls the pain body. So with that, I'll go to Rob. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
You want to say something about this, Rob? I know you've written a book about it, so you have a lot to say. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Yes. I dealt with 35 years or so of chronic severe anxiety, spinal injury and many, many physical ailments that came from my mind. And I guess the place to start would be when I look back at myself and think about the question you're asking, how to surrender. And you all made really great points. I really don't have much more to say other than expand on what you all have said. And basically from the perspective of the scared egoic self, one is completely identified with the pain and the anxiety. And so I guess that presence of mind needs to be split up in some way. And so the way that I did that with insomnia, I'll give an example of insomnia. I wasn't able to surrender to insomnia. I didn't understand it. And so I had this conscious thought of, I'm going to sit with myself while I'm having insomnia. And it was a different aspect because I treated even the insomnia, I treated as if it was a little boy in me. Rather than a scary entity, I imagined this insomnia is just a scared little boy. And I sat with it, and I had the thoughts go back and forth in the mind, and they say, this is silly, you're going to be tired, you're not going to sleep, your work is going to be exhausting, and the mind goes on. And I would consciously say to myself, that's okay. That's okay. I know I'm going to be exhausted tomorrow, but I'm not going to lose sending my body love at this moment. And rather than being completely enveloped with the insomnia, I talked to myself as if it was separate. And that helped me to change some of the habitual things. And so I did this for about 3 weeks, had some hit or miss moments. After 3 weeks or so, the insomnia left. And I think that was due to breaking that habitual pattern that Joe Dispenza talks about. Also the presence of mind that Eckhart Tolle talks about. I sat with myself. And so that's a separate entity. There are two things going on there. That's not complete presence. You're not the one, you're not it's not as if you've made the transcended from the manifested to the unmanifested at that point. It's the beginning groundwork. And I feel like chronic severe anxiety was the same way. I would walk down the boardwalk and out of nowhere just break out into a sweat. And I would look around into the physical world and say, what just caused this? And I realized over time that maybe something caused it years ago, but the habit was there. So then I had to sit with myself, and I'd be sweating and the heart rate's racing and I'm having a panic attack. And I'd say, well, I'm going to sit with myself and I'm going to send myself love. And my mind would say, this is silly. You need to, it said all these things. And I said, that's fine. And I looked at my body as if it was a little boy that needed love, which it was. And I did that persistently until the habit was broken. And then I came into a more presence of love and union with the one consciousness or the source energy or God or whatever term. And that's kind of the escalation process or the stages that I went through.
Beautiful. Phenomenal. Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
The pointer that you gave, that there is no threat in the current present moment, but still the body is acting as though there is something to panic about. What Dr. Joe says is the body is the subconscious mind. That we have practiced that emotion so much for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, like the body now knows how to do it. Like at 8 a.m., if you're not anxious about the getting into traffic, we're sitting in meditation, the body will tell us, why are you sitting here in meditation? Get into something that it'll bring a thought that'll want to irritate us or annoy us, like how we get, a lot of people get frustrated in traffic, right? Because we are habituated to getting exactly at 7:20 a.m. or whoever gets 7 a.m. or 6:30 a.m., they get into traffic and they're like about the traffic. So that pointer that the body keeps the score. There's a book as well, right? The body keeps the score. So the body is the subconscious mind, and that's what we need to do. Exactly what you said is, and this is the greatest pointer that Dr. Joe teaches through his meditations, that we make our body sit. We tell it we are the master. The body does not, it's not the master. He says, you'll get your coffee when I'm ready. You'll get your food when I'm ready. But right now you're sitting here and you're sitting in meditation, and you sit and sit until you get to the present moment. It's like, even he says, because he runs a huge organization, right? Like he has like medical assist, he has people that are corporate trainers. He runs a huge company, as well as he runs like a scientific organization, scientists under him. He has a lot of, if we think that we have a lot of thoughts, oh, we have to answer this email, we need to work on this spreadsheet, we need to do this, do that for work. Imagine how much of what he needs to plan, right? His website, is it available in all kinds of languages? Is it bringing up currency in all kinds of currency types? How are people then making all these 200, 300, whatever, how many, ever 100 people he has employed, right? That they're working all in cohesion. The most incredible part about, the one thing I love about his organization is everybody does his work. Like even the event manager, the people at the event, each one, even the nurses and the doctors and the scientists, all do Dr. Joe's work. So they are already imbued with that kind of like service kind of mentality and serving kind of mentality. Whether it's the nurse, the way the nurse will talk to you, the way the research assistants talk to you, the way the research folks talk to you, everyone is so, so sweet. Like you are just enveloped in like sweet preciousness. But yeah, the body keeps the score. So thank you so much for that pointer. Patricia, you want to share with April what wisdom you got from April for 2 hours or something about this? Thank you. What did April say that was most effective for you?
I tell you, it was just experiencing her presence and listening to her voice. I don't know what single thing she said, but just being in an experience, that's what it's healing. So even Eckhart says that words are just pointers. So it depends what words for this person, for the questioner, will work. Maybe surrender is not the word. It's just you got to find which one works for you. For me, it was pretty useful because, like, you remember, you told me to give me idea of putting the word surrender on Post-its in different areas of the home to just remind me. But it wasn't the word itself, it was just anything to remind me to go back to presence in a moment when my mind was going crazy with anxiety. I had very deep anxiety. I had this anxiety, depression, and So you're working on many levels. You're addressing the energy that it's already going, like you breaking the habit of being yourself, right? Of that, but also digging for the source maybe to find out what the message is, where it came from, and that maybe that needs to heal that original wound by giving it some love, like Rob was talking about, you know, looking at it like a child. But just in that simple exercise, and I think that's what I think how Eckhart also got his enlightening moments, enlightenment moments, that he separated. He's like, how can I live with myself? Oh, so there is me and myself. He felt experientially that he is not his body, that he's not his thoughts, that there is that consciousness, the presence, that it's a space, holds the space for all of it. So once you realize that you are it, I mean, surrendering doesn't even, it's not a question anymore, because you know who you are in your true nature, in your essence. So then the question itself, I must say, it actually might be one of the first signs that there is a slowly awakening happening, because the question is, you know, I noticed, you know, I want to surrender. I have the pain, you know, and then anxiety, but just saying it doesn't happen. But it's like, right? So there is some kind of awareness that the work would need desire to do the work. So I would suggest just choosing a group and showing up and doing the practice, because there will be days when it's just gonna go wild again, but then just having a routine and knowing, okay, every Wednesday I'm gonna show up here and share the presence with other like-minded people that going through the same thing. It's just will help anchor it. And so for me, I had to feed my mind with something to do, because my mind was also very wild. So I needed to replace, like April suggested, I couldn't just stop it, because by stopping it, I was resisting it. And then I was getting upset that it didn't stop. And it became like you know, even worse, fueling machine. So it's like, well, if I have that OCD of having this compulsive thoughts, why don't I feed it the thoughts that have a better energy? So I would start repeating Ho'oponopono prayer, which is every time I felt like I'm gonna, oh, you stupid, or you didn't do it right, or well, something like that, or I'm afraid what I'm gonna do, like, okay, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Just that words would all of a sudden completely change my energy. So that was one thing. But meditations with the group, I would sit and I would tell my body, I don't care that you're not feeling good, so lie down, whatever, but you're staying and meditating. I don't care how many times the thoughts will leave, you'll go back to your breath. And just patience and like love. Okay, maybe I was away for 5 minutes, but now I'm breathing, and just by realizing that I'm back, you're back, right? That you were away. So that ability to observe yourself. And also on the level of meditation, Joe Dispenza is phenomenal. So I would definitely recommend it. Very healing energy, just that imagination of being, like also April mentioned, imagining yourself being that different person, the peaceful person, having that image, putting it in the quantum and field, and then bringing it back. And at the end of meditation, when he says now, you know, putting the mind What is it from a mind to a new body or to mind?
You're in a whole new body, in a whole new environment, in a whole new time. He always uses some combination, but the message is always, because he says there are three things that influence us. It's our body, it's the environment, and it's time, being past, future.
Right, so he's really huge on that. So like first almost creating in your mind image of that person that is pain-free, doing some awesome things that you can do right now. Also person that is very calm and joyous and just can sit. So you're giving the image and you really the energy of it, you starting to identify yourself with that new person. You're starting to embody you, and then the mind will have to make it happen, because now it's like, wow, this is me now, so I have to do everything in this moment to kind of make it come true, right? To fill that different image now. So that's extremely helpful. But I did something on physical level. I changed completely to following medical medium protocol, because I did believe that I had so many symptoms and anxiety would just like run it. So understanding that it might be the heavy metal detox that I needed, I would just follow it completely. I changed my entire diet and it helped tremendously. So I don't know which one exactly thing did it, but I think for me, it was a combination of sticking with the group, help with everybody's energy, just disciplining myself to show up, then doing meditations on my own as well, plus the diet, medical medium. So but definitely it can be healed, it can be done. We all have our own stories, how we healed. And I do also have from childhood, my father he is bipolar, which we didn't know then. So we never knew how he's gonna be when he comes home. I was always afraid to bring a friend home because I was devastated and so worried how he's gonna show up and how he's gonna yell at my mom, yell at me, calling me names in front of my friend. Who wants to be around this? I was ashamed that this is happening. So yeah, it was a lot of anxiety from then, coming and not understanding that it's not me, it was his mental disease. So you got to kind of start separating also your self-understanding. And once you look at it differently, then even Byron Katie's work of questioning everything, like really imagining yourself in that situation back there and really question, was it really true? And it's like, well, it wasn't, he was sick. And then once you see it differently, you can never unsee it. So it helps also if something is stuck. But the root of the root is the presence power. And presence power is the miracle that we all experience and we all need to do anything, even realize that we are not our body. You need to be presence for that, right? So any practice, yoga, breathing, meditations, following medical medium protocol for health that helps you clean the body from toxins, that can stop brain cells from communicating. So any of those, everybody had wonderful examples of how. So it's definitely ready, but the person is ready. Asking the question is definitely already there in the beginning of the road.
They've suffered enough.
Yes, like I'm trying to surrender. I'm not doing it right, but who is not doing it right? Someone is observing, right? Someone there's this little bit of presence that's observing you struggling with not doing it right or not getting the results, which was me too a lot. Oh my gosh. But just realizing, wait a second, someone is okay and seeing all of this happening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patricia. Yeah, that's commendable that you took up the medical medium protocol. Like on a dime, you turn around. The reason why Patricia is talking about the heavy metal detox is because what medical medium, another pointer that medical medium gives is all anxiety and depression. Anybody suffering PTSD and suffering severe anxiety is actually suffering heavy metals in their body. So if they cleanse heavy metals in their body, which he has a heavy metal detox smoothie, which is what, let me remember, orange juice, I put some coconut water as well, blueberries, bananas, spirulina, barley grass juice powder. I put some wild blueberry powder, and then Atlantic dulse and cilantro. That's the combination. And each thing, one lifts the metal out of the body, the other one puts it in the bloodstream, another one washes it and eliminates it. So each ingredient that this is, the combination of the ingredient is such that something lifts it out of the, something lifts it out of the brain, something lifts it out of the
They transport it out of the cells because they're so embodied in our organs, deeply in cells. It needs to be kind of like knocked down out of there first. Then yes, exactly, transported out of the cell into the bloodstream. And then we have to drink a lot of water as well when we're doing the detox. So it's actually going out of the blood instead of just now making the blood, with all those toxins. So it's very important to follow it, but it does help tremendously. I mean, the first 3 days when I did the detox for like an hour after, something I was like losing, it felt physically being that you're trying your body.
I used to have a metallic taste in my mouth. Like the first few weeks. Now I no longer do I have a metallic taste, but the first few weeks I had a metallic taste. Like I knew the metals were coming out because I would have a metallic taste. So
it depends.
Yeah.
Everybody's different. Some can have more of certain ones, some the other, but it does help. It does help. So I would
Definitely.
try different things and see which one, but just keep doing it, keep trying, and don't worry that it doesn't work the first time or the very first 7 times or first month. Just keep doing stuff and the universe will keep feeding you and you'll find the magic combination.
Perfect. Thank you, Patricia.
Thank
Let's
you.
go to Francesca. I put the question again in the chat. I don't know if you've read it. If you want to speak to it. Thank you.
Yes, I read it. Thank you. Can you guys hear me well? Am I echoing? Or okay, because I have some sound issues. So I'm connected to this call twice from my phone and then my computer. Hi. So to this beautiful being that's asking this question about how to surrender, from my experience, it's about becoming present with whatever is arising in that moment. Becoming present by feeling it, actually feeling it. And I've been working with physical chronic pain, if that's what your question is referring to, quite a lot, actually, extreme physical chronic pain, even though I've healed a lot of my actual subconscious pain body imprints. And I think it was Rob that mentioned, I've discovered myself as I'm working with this, with my physical body, I'm learning that I need to work with it as if it's a child, this beautiful child that needs that reinforcement of it's okay, you're safe, you know, I love you, everything is okay. And that's the self-talk portion that I go through with it, because every time I get chest pain, which angina, and or the pain in my shoulder, which activates the angina, so the heart, I'm aware of it. But in order to become so attuned to the body, so that you're aware of everything that it's feeling, like this chest pain, you know, or oh my goodness, the pain in the shoulder activating, you have to be in that state of awareness yourself. And you can do that through meditation. So as you meditate, there's multiple ways. So dissolving the actual pain body. Sorry, this is, I can hear myself echoing and it's coming out slow motion. It's kind of distracting me from, you know, concentrating, because it's weird. Maybe I'll loosen the headphones from my ear a little bit.
You should turn off the sound on your computer so that the computer,
Okay.
mute your computer so you don't hear the echo. But then now you've muted yourself, we cannot hear you. So actually your sound is working on your, so mute yourself on your computer and unmute yourself from the phone.
Mute from the phone and mute
There
on
we
the
go.
computer.
That's
Okay,
good.
that's better. Okay, yes, I'm not echoing. Thank goodness.
Because it was strange, it was coming back to me in slow motion. Oh my. Having a hard time staying concentrated on what I'm trying to share in relation to working with chronic pain and the physical body. And so what I'm learning is to become fully present and aware of the physical body in relation to how it responds to stimulus, whether that stimulus is from the mind itself and the thoughts that is generating, which activates adrenaline. And that could result in wherever you have that physical pain, or whether that physical pain is being activated because you're doing something physical, like lifting weights or dancing, exercise, whatever it is that you're doing. So, you know, understanding the pattern of the arising of your pain will help you significantly work towards healing that pain, because the more you understand it, the more when you feel it, the more you can tap in and become present with it. And breathe and try not to label it. Being present with it requires just breathing and feeling whatever it is that you're feeling. And it's the same process to dissolve anxiety as well, because the anxiety is generated by all of these thoughts that you're having. And if the anxiety and the physical pain is happening at the same time, then one is just feeding off of the other, right? So there is a pattern underlying that's a pain body pattern because it's rooted in the subconscious mind. That's underneath that's triggering that response to happen, that physical response to happen. And it, the fear, it's the whole thing, the root of the whole thing, of course, is fear, right? The root of the anxiety is fear. Likely that fear is, trapped at the cellular levels in the physical body. And that's why they're happening together. So my suggestion would be to meditate. And when you close your eyes to meditate, try and understand the patterns, or even without meditation, let's you approach it from the state of awareness. So, oh my goodness, say the pain activates right now, or the anxiety. Just take a breath and become aware that I'm feeling anxiety. I have pain wherever the pain is happening, like let's say chest pain, because that's one of mine, right? And just feel that pain without labeling, because the moment you start to label, what you're doing is you're feeding that subconscious imprint that plays a role in the story that the egoic state of mind creates to tell you this is what's going on. And that's often far from the truth. Chronic pain is associated with childhood trauma, or if you've had any sort of domestic abuse happen. So I recommend also, when you're doing your healing on yourself here, so when you're looking at the pain body, for you to examine in that regards, if you have physical abuse or anything like in that regards that happened to you, whether it's childhood or as an adult, or something that happened that's causing that fear, well that placed that fear in the first place in your body at that level. So I'm just reading the question. So how to surrender, becoming fully present, and that's feeling whatever it is that you're feeling in that given moment of time, like right here, right now, and breathe and just allow it. And the beautiful thing about presence is this awareness itself is powerful enough to dissolve whatever it is that's happening, because it kind of it feels like it fizzles out anyways, like it just and then within seconds or sometimes within minutes, I actually forget what I was thinking, like the thoughts that was causing the anxiety. I was like, and I've just, moved on to something else, right? So allow yourself to feel it, and yeah, feel it. Don't label it, just feel it. Be present, become present with it, and let that magic of that surrender of you in that feeling do the work for you. It will dissolve it. It still sounds echoey, but yeah, still slightly distracting, but hopefully I got out what it is that I'm trying to share, and use, like everybody has shared, right? There's multiple tools, play with them. have fun with it, right? And allow that fun to be the distraction from that fear and anxiety that you're feeling. There is a subconscious program, right, that you're trying to rewire. And that's the program that maybe the pain flares up first, then you feel anxious, or maybe the anxiety flares up first and you feel anxious. Whatever order they come in, right? The key is to not feed that old cycle. Recognize it right away and then do something else, right? Program a new habit, right? By taking that breath, allowing yourself to feel it, talk to it like a child, with love, and say, it's okay. I see you, I hear you, right? And breathe every time, every word, after every word that you speak to it, breathe. And not just breathe. When you breathe, be awareness of the breath, because it moves into the body and it just spreads in the body. And be with it. And you might feel that beautiful feeling, that quiet. Allow yourself to feel it, because that's a new program you're wiring in your subconscious mind. Allow yourself to feel it and breathe, and then say the next word to it. You are safe. And then do the same thing again. Breathe, and then speak to it again. Do it, you're reprogramming that pattern. And I wish you all the best of healing in your journey.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Phenomenal. Thank you so much, Francesca. Dave actually asked, how do we get heavy metals? Heavy metals are caused by our everyday use, because we're using stainless steel spoons, stainless steel forks, stainless steel, like we may cook in stainless steel pots and pans. The other thing is, if you're using tap water is coming through pumps that are metal, right? Copper, they could be copper, they could be mercury. The other thing is what medical medium says is, generationally, the older generations, they had a lot of mercury fillings, mercury in them. So our great-grandfather, grandfather, or grandmother, our parents, great-grandparents would have handed down generationally the metals in us. And like I said, right, like I did not have any anxiety, or I don't have any observable depression or anxiety.
And also scented candles, anything that's fragrances sprayed, they just chemically, when they make them, they have it. So we are surrounded, we cannot escape it. A fuel, gasoline, if you drive a car every day, it's in the air. I mean, every single thing. Your toothpaste, the fluoride is derivative from aluminum. So, just every single thing that you can cut, away. But I would, if you're interested, I would definitely, that person, get medical medium book, the brain saver book.
And do the heavy metal detox.
Yeah, it's right. Yeah, it's
and especially if you've done a lot of pharmaceuticals. Even pharmaceuticals have a lot of metals. So if you've taken pharmaceutical drugs, alcohol, lot of alcohol in your body, then there are a lot of metals in your body. So do the heavy metal detox. It's just a smoothie. You can always ping Patricia or myself and get the recipe. I'm sure medical mediums.
Delicious. It's
we love it.
The most incredible thing about it is that it's delicious. It's really good.
It's my dessert for the week whenever I have the heavy metal detox smoothie. With that, I'll go back to April. April, I do have a question. So somebody posted on our Facebook post that they love Eckhart. They don't want to hear the Facebook Live panel. They want to hear Eckhart. And my response was, if you love Eckhart, then you have to realize love is about seeing yourself in the other. Once I posted that, I realized I did not post back this realization. Don't you feel, April, that when somebody is saying, I love Eckhart, but I don't love so-and-so, that they're actually being unloving towards, if Eckhart is saying love is recognizing myself in the other, right? So my presence recognizes the presence in the other. If I'm denying that presence in the other, that means I'm being unloving towards myself. Some part of myself is unloving. I'm unloving some part in myself. Isn't that right?
One second, I had a teenager barging out of the bedroom. That's exactly right. So they said to you they did not want to hear us speak, they wanted to hear Eckhart speak.
But
However,
that they
this-
love, they're in this group because they love Eckhart, not us. But my thing is if you love one thing but don't love
Yeah.
another part, right? Then you're being unloving. I'm not saying you're not being loving towards us. You're being unloving towards yourself, right?
Yeah,
You're
correct.
not loving some part of yourself. You want to explain that?
Well,
that?
yeah, I mean,
you.
this obviously Eckhart doesn't have his own group necessarily where he comes live. So this is definitely not it. But because we all had a love for Eckhart, that's why this group was created, right? But what you're speaking of is learning that we're all one. So we all come from that one source. The best way to describe that source, I think, did I say this to you, Patricia, over the weekend? Is like if you have a glass plate and you drop it and it shatters, each one of us is a piece of that plate. Each one of us is a shard. So essentially, we're still all part of the whole. And and this is where it gets kind of tricky, especially when you first start on this journey, is learning to love that person who's not so nice, or learning to love that person who does something that's per se deemed as bad, and knowing that that is part of you, that you are looking at another aspect of you, because we are all one, we're all connected, we're all the same energy. We are just manifested in different forms at different stages. So in order to truly, if you really believe that you are part of source, and if you really believe that we're all one, then you would love all. So that's exactly it. And to not love all, or to not, love this panel per se, would be denying yourself. Now, you don't have to participate, of course. You could, you have choice, right? There's always that free will. There's always the free will. But yes, and that is a very hard thing to do. It is something that in what we call the Christ consciousness, that's one of the main things in the Christ consciousness, is learning to love everybody. As Jesus did, he loved the leopard, and he loved the sick, and he loved all of them, right? So you are right. And it's a practice. It takes practice.
Because we no longer see the sickness, we see the essence of the other.
Right. You
Right.
see the soul, right? You don't see the costume, you see the soul. It's the same thing as Mother Teresa going out and saying, going out into the homeless and saying, I see God in its many disguises. It's the
Mhm.
same concept. It's one of my favorite concepts that she had. And it is difficult for us to do because we are taught to judge from day one. but it's achievable. And the more you are on this path, the more that you will see that. I had to be mindful of it, and I know Eckhart doesn't like that word, but I had to watch what I was judging or how I was judging others, that they weren't doing anything to me. They're walking down the street and they have some crazy outfit on, and I'm in my mind going, oh my God, did you see that? Right? And then I have to be mindful and say, what are you doing? Why are you saying that? Just love that they're expressing themselves in that way,
Mhm.
right? That's how you do it.
Yes.
But you have to know, you have to pay attention. And it's still, it's also part of presence. It's part of presence to go back and say, there's no problem here.
Mhm.
There's no problem here.
And I absolutely love what's exemplary about the group and this panel is what happened to Patricia over the weekend. That just out of the bond that you have with Patricia, you spent 2 hours with her, talking to her, right? Nobody paid you. That's pure divinity, right? Pure, pristine, crystalline divinity that one divine being spend time with another one. It's not like your family, it's not like your sisters, or it's just a bond over a Facebook Live. I want the whole group to have that kind of a bond towards each other, right?
Mhm.
Towards
Mhm.
humanity. Unless we have that kind of a bond, that selflessness, how are we going to bring peace and justice? What Eckhart is saying, bring a new earth down to this earth, right? Beautiful. Thank you, April. Ken, did you want to say something about this?
Yes, thank you. Yes, and as you're saying that, I'm realizing the group, and many of us have been here a while, and I feel like we are definitely evolving. So I came, like I said earlier, 15 months ago, the conversations were definitely different than when I came in. And I was just really discovering and learning what presence was, and really, and I needed to. If I didn't have that, and if I came in now, I'd probably be lost a little bit. So it's something where, and then listening to Eckhart, I feel like we are definitely doing the work of the power of now and a new earth, without a doubt. But I feel like the way we're expressing ourselves may be a little different than where we were at before, or what the book is really trying to say. So if somebody reads that, I've learned that I try to connect with people where they're at, and that there takes deep listening to kind of say, okay, what are they saying, and try to evolve that way. And I might say, come on Friday nights, where you actually will hear Eckhart for 20 minutes on a segment that he's talking about. I think would be much clearer. And to me, it's more involved of the actual books than what we're talking about for somebody who just came in from reading the books. But
Beautiful. Thank you, Ken. Yeah, that's what I would recommend, that if they don't want to join the Facebook Live, if they don't want to hear from us, as Ken says, we do watch 20 minutes of a unusual Eckhart video that is not published on YouTube. We watch it off this website. So you'll get a glimpse of what Eckhart is talking about if you're into his teachings. But like Patricia says, you have to do the work. You have to create the time. You have to make the time to be present at that particular time, and have the dedication week after week to show up at that exact time, so that you can watch the video and then talk about it or just comment on it. So thank you, Ken. Amazing. Thank you for that pointer. Rob, did you want to say something about this? To love is to recognize myself in the other. And what if I don't recognize the other, or I'm hating something about the other?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Certainly, it's when I see something, when an emotion rises in me, when I'm speaking to another or see another person, I know that I am seeing something in that other person that's in me. And anytime an emotion arises inside of me that has been spurred on by the circumstances, I say to myself, what inside of me is not settled, is not comfortable with me? And most times the situation, the circumstance is not necessarily the trigger. It's the vibration going on, or the depth of the circumstance that's going on. And so I can look into myself and say, why is this happening to me? I take a deeper look, and just by taking that deeper look, as Eckhart talks about, it's just the awareness that dissolves that entire situation. And I think many times we might have an emotion rise up in us, and we look at it because of a situation, and a judgment happens, and we allow that fear or the judgment to take us over, and we become one with it. And I think awareness separates us from it. And at that moment in time, it's kind of a learning curve. There's one less amount of intensity in life. So the next time that happens, it will be less intense. And so it's a process. And after so many times of these emotions rising, eventually the emotions they don't even affect me anymore. And life is more of a fun playground rather than a place of struggle and stress.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
That's quite a mastery over your emotions, so commendable. Thank you. Patricia, did you want to say something about this? To love is to recognize myself and the other.
This is very true. And I went over that phase as well. And I'm still in that phase when if something is annoying me at someone else, or I want to criticize it, or I want to, fight something in someone, point it out, like now, actually, thanks to Caesar, I think he gave me that, like, you choose, be grateful, because that there is a message pointing something in you that's reflecting it or mirroring it, right? But it goes for both things. If I see someone that it's so wonderful and giving and sharing, and I recognize it, it's part of me that has that as well. So I remember that that saying, someone said, oh, you spotted, you got it. Like, oh, so I it's okay that if I see a lot of loving people and trustworthy and helpful, it's like, whoa, because I'm becoming that. I'm that more of that. When I was very judgmental, I always like butting heads with others and, arguments like, oh, okay, so my world was everybody is out to get me. Maybe I was like that. Maybe I didn't feel like I'm enough. So, I was always acting out of that place of fear and not being enough, of being scarce and incomplete. So I was always afraid that someone will take something away from me, right? So it was that constant struggle. So yes, everything that we see in the outside world, it's coming from us. We created it. We co-created that reality, right? We create the personal reality. So this is a message back to us. If we don't like something out there, it's like, oh, where is it coming from us? How do we contribute to that reality? and just change that. We could do that. We are so powerful.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Talking about co-creating the reality, I was going to go back to the pain. The first question where they said pain, and what Iyanla Vanzant and I think even Louise L. Hay said, we create pain when we are experiencing guilt. Because when we are experiencing guilt, we go, oh, I need to be punished. And I need to be punished turns into, the subconscious mind creates the pain that I need to be punished for whatever that I'm guilty about. So what we need to work on when we are experiencing pain, what we need to work on is guilt, which is, I think, the second center. We went through the centers, right, Patricia? We are stuck, Dr. Joe says we are stuck in the first 3 centers. So we are in the energy centers or chakras. So we are stuck in the lower chakras, and our job is to raise our vibrational frequency so that we get out of he has a whole set of meditations called Blessings of the Energy Centers, where we bless the energy centers and experience the energy of the center to raise its energy.
And sometimes, like Rob said, it doesn't happen like immediately. It takes every few times, and each time is better and less and less and less. So healing also takes a while, unless you saw, great experience and you have all that power and people are healing with you, the energy, but we are still just one, right? If I just try to heal myself, I don't have as much presence, power, and dedication that I can actually meditate for 10 hours constantly and really, because I don't have that discipline yet. So it's gonna either take multiple times of trying or help of others helping me get to that coherence, right? With the energy source, and then the healing will happen. So even with my back pain that I've been experiencing for the last week, it took, meditations, it took acceptance, it took my talking to April, trying to figure out what's the guilt about, where this is source. But just even I had my aha moment, and then it's like, but just by in that moment having that aha moment, it's not gonna take the pain away right away. I do have to now get meditation and healing of that, so it doesn't happen again. But the one that is already there, it's there, and I need to allow my body to slowly heal it. And
The
it
way
takes
to
time.
the way to overwrite it, or go into the operating system and overwrite it, is to that's why he has that breath of pulling the mind out of the body, that I've been telling both Vidya and you, that do the breath work, because the
I
breath,
did the body electric, and I was hysterically laughing, but that did not heal it right away. It took,
I'm not saying you can just do it once and be done. And I'm saying repeatedly, people have done Dr. Joe's breathwork for 365 days for an hour a day, 365 days. So I'm not saying it's going to heal, but then they have had a lot of mystical experiences out of it. What I'm saying is the way, the energy is stuck in the first 3 centers, right? So we have to intentionally pull from the lower centers up, right? And what he calls it's like making love to your brain. It's orgasmic for the brain. And I can experience it. Now I've gotten to the point where I can actually experience the ecstasy of when it hits the brain, right? That breath. So if that breath is not bringing ecstasy to your brain, then you're still not doing the breath work correctly. And if you're not doing the breath work correctly, it's not having the effect of pulling the energy out of the body.
And a lot of a lot of people, I was the same way. Out of constant fear and living in that fear mode, my breath was very shallow. I was all up here. I couldn't even relax. I couldn't, I didn't have a capacity. And during the workshop, I know one of the ladies that was talking about breath for work. I'm sorry, I forgot her name, but that was the lady from Australia. I think she actually went to some
Okay,
monastery.
okay, Leanne Smith.
Yeah. So she actually mentioned, I remember I asked her, so she said, you need to lie down. It's easier when you're lying down to do this. And that's why Body Electric works much better for me. Even at this point, I got much better by sitting it down and pulling, but it's still in certain moments, especially with pain, when I'm lying down, it's easier for me to do the breath
Right.
versus sitting
But
up.
try and sit down, and that's what I'm saying. Rewind the thing and do the breath work. Rewind the thing and do the breath work. And I'll copy. I have breath work. I can share the breath work as well. So with that, let me go to Francesca. Francesca, so you want to wrap it up, Francesca? If I'm not loving somebody, then that means I'm denying something, because love is to recognize myself in the other. If I'm not loving somebody, then I'm denying something about myself, is my conclusion or realization, that epiphany that I had.
Yes. It means, of course, if you're not loving somebody, it means you're running that vibration of judgment, that element of judgment. And the same way in which you're judging the other people or the trigger that's causing the problem, somewhere within you, you're also judging yourself that way. And that's what's keeping you stuck in that program of judgment, right? So I would say, everything is a mirror there to teach you something about yourself. So whatever trigger is arising for you, take a look at it, examine, why am I feeling this way? Or why am I having these thoughts about these people that I don't even know? What's causing me to have those thoughts? Because by asking those questions, you're going into that pain body imprint within yourself in relation to the energy of that judgment that you're carrying in. Because highly likely, if you're, for example, judging people that you don't know, you're probably doing it, it's rooted, and you're doing it to people that you do know, that you do love. So I feel with that, there's a lot of deep inner work that needs to take place in order to dissolve that pain body, because they're all interconnected, right? And what's critical, well, I think it's critical anyways, is the fact that the mind thinks that it's judging somebody else. It doesn't like somebody else because it has this whole story to justify with all the right feelings and so forth, right? But that's the illusion, because what it doesn't show you, what you think to people who are awake, it doesn't even affect them. Has nothing to do with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do with them, and everything to do with the program that you're running in your subconscious mind. And the egoic state of mind, the story maker, there to orchestrate it in the order or the cycle that it normally delivers it. And this actually ties in a little bit deeper to the Christ in relation to how we crucify ourselves over and over and over again, thinking that we're hurting somebody else because, you know, we have all these thoughts and all these bad wishes. Like, judgment is loaded with all of that, right? But the fact is, what we don't see and what the egoic state of mind doesn't tell us is when we think those thoughts, we feel those feelings, we're actually crucifying ourselves because it impacts us, our physical body, our vibrational field.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Beautiful,
that-
beautiful, Francesca. And what I feel is in the judgment, right? Even though it's, and what Dr. Deepak Chopra says is moral self-righteous. Let me see if I can get this right. Moral self-righteousness is like jealousy with a halo,
Yes.
right? So
Literally.
you're feeling morally right because you're saying Eckhart is who I love, but in that, the ego has strengthened itself, right? Like you say, egoic mind,
State of mind. Yeah.
state of mind. The
It
ego has
disguises
taken
itself.
that moment and strengthened itself, not realizing in that judgment, I'm feeding my ego, I'm no longer in presence. So with that incredibly amazing self-realization, it has been like a mind-blowing evening. So I am so grateful to all of you. Sri Lakshmi was with us, Summer was with us, and then Dave and Hugh and Juliet and everyone else is online as well. So many blessings, much love to all of you. See you all next week. And thank you so much. Infinite gratitude that everyone showed up. As Nadia says, thank you for choosing your divinity over your humanity. As always grateful. Thank you. Bye. Good night. Have a wonderful evening.